Well, hey there. So this is my first time going live on either Facebook or Instagram. I've got a janky setup. I've got probably the most JV approach here. I've got my laptop and my phone up here. Please, if you join and you can't hear me, please let me know. Would love to make sure that audio is working out well. Again, just learning this process. Incredibly uncomfortable for me and don't know how to do this. And ultimately today, if no one joins this broadcast, that's fine because it'll just be me talking and figuring this out as I go along. So thank you so much for thinking about joining. Have a really important topic today that's going to affect a lot of folks' bottom line as they continue to struggle with the challenges of inflation. Today we had the Consumer Price Index report come out with an indication of higher inflation, which I think is no shock to anyone. Folks have been talking about it for months. It's not just what we have seen as a result of Russia's assault on Ukraine. This has been a trend going up for some time. And today, the Biden administration is coming out with a pretty important announcement. It's actually an announcement on a topic that I and the organization I work for have been working toward for some time. And as I go through the live stream here, if you have any questions, would love for you to drop them in the chat so that I can try to answer those in real time. I am using a service called StreamYard that I've never used before, again, because I've never gone live before, except on someone else's recording. So this is all new to me. So if I mess up, I apologize, but you're going to get my very authentic self here as we go along. So here's the deal. Consumers have been feeling the pinch at the pump, right? I think we all acknowledge that. The president acknowledges that. Members of Congress acknowledge that, right? There are folks who are struggling to make ends meet as we see outrageous inflation, 40-year high inflation that is really, really quite remarkable. And it's squeezing consumers at a time when we're also dealing with the tail end of the pandemic, as we are seeing fewer and fewer items available as we go out shopping because of the supply chain. This inflationary pressure is causing all kinds of problems for families like mine and their bottom line. And there are very simple ways that we can enact policy or regulations that help relieve some of that stress early on. And today, President Biden is in Menlo, Iowa, touring an ethanol plant, a plant that takes corn, yellow two-field corn, not the kind of corn that you and I eat, the sweet corn that you pick up, right? This is yellow two-field corn that is used for ethanol production and animal feed. And that ethanol production is really, really special. There are a lot of products that come out of it, not just the liquid fuel. And we'll get into how that liquid fuel is blended into gasoline here in a few minutes. But there are these things called co-products. And those ethanol co-products include something called dried distiller grains. This is something I didn't know about before I started working for agricultural producers. But these dried distiller grains, or DDGs, are a high protein source of animal feed. A really, really valuable co-product that comes out of this natural process in the production of ethanol. Really great co-product. These ethanol plants also capture the CO2 emissions in many cases, and they capture those CO2 emissions and turn them into the carbonated beverages that you enjoy at restaurants. They capture that CO2. It becomes carbonation for your favorite Coke and Pepsi products that you get every time at the restaurant. You also get corn oil, and that's going to be a big part of what we get into with President Biden's announcement here in a little bit. But corn oil is one of those rudimentary pieces to developing the future of sustainable aviation fuel. For my friends who join this live stream who are for environmental causes, sustainable aviation fuel has been in the discussion for many months now. Corn oil is a key piece of that. There's some other things that come out of the process as well, but those are some of the bigger co-products. And it's important for you to know that it's not just corn being used to produce ethanol, which is blended in with gasoline, but bioethanol, renewable fuels, there are these bigger systems that exist that I find really fascinating. I knew nothing about them up until a couple of years ago as I started working again for corn producers here in Ohio. And for disclosure, I am a lobbyist. I work in politics. I know nothing about actually growing corn. And I am the first to admit that. And, if you tried to put me out in the field and have me figure out, I'm never going to get there. Right. I work doing what I do because I'm a political hack and I enjoy the process of helping people advocate. And as I go through this live stream, I'm probably going to mention a couple times that I have a website, partofthepossible.com. And on that site, I provide free resources for folks to learn how they can advocate for issues better. And this announcement today is really a showing of what effective advocacy can do for a cause. Effective advocates can help existing policy recommendations get across the finish line, especially in moments where the issue becomes salient, becomes really impactful for decision makers. 2 months ago, as Russia was invading Ukraine, what was everyone's immediate reaction? Well, Russia makes a lot of oil. How are we going to make up for Russian oil if we have to stop importing that Russian oil? I wasn't worried because I know this broader picture of American ethanol production and renewable fuel production. And as we go through the live stream here, I want you to remember that it has been uh, advocates at the local level who have been reaching out to their members of Congress, who have been participating through associations like the National Corn Growers Association or my own Ohio Corn and Wheat Growers Association, that have been engaging with these decision makers to bring this story effectively to them at a time when it mattered, when other constituents were saying, "Hey, I'm paying too much at the pump. What can you do?" And a lot of folks in the political spectrum settled on the easy answer first, the old tried and true, well, drill, baby, drill. Let's open up more drills. Let's find more ways to get actual crude into the market, and that's fine and dandy. And the market forces are there to help spur that on. But there are other direct ways where, without having to go into a delay for implementation of a new product like electric vehicles, or without having to wait for new drills to come online, that we can deliver real results for the American people right now. And one of those is ethanol. So we talked a little bit about what those co-products are of ethanol. What is ethanol for the vast majority of us, though? Again, this is something that I wasn't aware of just 2.5 years ago. But if you drove to work today, or if you drove your kids to school today and you used unleaded 87, 89, 93, guess what? You were using ethanol today. About 98% of our fuel supply incorporates a 10% blend of ethanol. And it is a result of the renewable fuel standard from the early 2000s under the Bush administration and a Republican Congress at that time. And those early years of the renewable fuel standard, the issue, the argument for ethanol was to create this renewable source that wasn't dependent on foreign folks, foreign production, and we could do something greener and less expensive right here, right now. The result of that renewable fuel standard is now we have 10% ethanol everywhere. Well, what's the next fuel? Since 2001, every make and model of car and light duty truck and SUV since 2001 has been produced specifically to be able to run off of 15% blends of ethanol. So just a little bit more ethanol than you currently would buy in 87, 89, 93. Again, if you have any questions about any of this, drop it in the chat. I'll try to get to them as I go along here. So there's this fuel that emerged after the RFS, after the Clean Air Act, that is optimized for modern engines. Modern engines that use fuel injection systems are capable of handling that higher octane that comes with ethanol. And that's actually the real value that oil producers, the gasoline retailers get out of ethanol. When it's blended with crude gasoline, it replaces carcinogenic elements that previously provided that higher octane that engines need for better performance. It replaced that with a cleaner burning source of octane. And that cleaner burning piece is really important for folks in my generation and Generation Z coming up behind me. We're hearing about this everywhere we go, right? Reduce carbon emissions, cleaner fuels. We want those options. We want to be able to choose those options, whether that's an EV or a hybrid vehicle, or like I drive 2015 Jeep Patriot. I can use this unleaded 88 and immediately reduce my carbon footprint. That's because every drop of ethanol that's blended into a tank of gasoline is reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 46 to 52% compared to the gasoline it's blended with. I'm going to say that again. Every drop in the tank reduces GHG emissions by 46 to 52%. That is massive. So the higher percentage of that tank that we can get, the more impactful those carbon reductions can be. Really, really important stuff here. So ethanol gets blended in with gasoline, and right now we're talking about expanding E15. Are we though, or not really? Right now, E15 is open in the market. You can buy it today here in Columbus, Ohio, where I live. You can go to sheet stations across central Ohio and buy something called unleaded 88. That's a 15% blend of ethanol compared to that, again, that unleaded 87, 89, 93, the standard gasolines that you're used to buying. You can purchase unleaded 88 instead and save massive amounts of money. Right now in Hilliard, it's 30 cents less per gallon compared to 87, and it runs in 96% of the vehicles on the road today. It is available. It is cleaner, and it's going to save you money at the pump. It is really incredible stuff. And today, the announcement coming out of the Biden administration is that they're going to help actually make sure that it's available year round. Here's where it gets thorny. Under the Clean Air Act and past legislation and regulation that's out there, E15, unleaded 88, that 15% blend of ethanol, didn't exist when the Clean Air Act was written, when the RFS was instituted. So Congress didn't write any of this legislation for a product that didn't exist, right? Well, now we're at a point where we have this fuel, it's available and can be used year round. But because it wasn't written into the legislation, it's being treated differently under regulations compared to that E10. And that's restricted its access. It's restricted its availability for folks like you and me across the country, especially during the summer months. So since 2011, you haven't been able to buy this cleaner burning, lower cost fuel in the summer months because of that regulatory problem. And to his credit, President Trump tried to address this as well. I want to point this out. This is now two administrations diametrically opposed on so many issues have understood that there is a real value here in a product that can deliver results for American consumers. That's really important. Not all of the issues that we get into in politics have to be so vitriolic. This is one of those issues where, we constantly have to work on this. We constantly have to educate people, but there's an answer here and both parties can get behind it. So the Trump administration back a couple of years ago started working on this problem and issued a regulatory decision that they were going to just blanket allow E15 to be sold year round, no matter what was going on. The problem with that is the DC Circuit Court of Appeals, where Big Oil filed a lawsuit to challenge that rule. That rule was designed to deliver a lower cost, cleaner burning fuel to you year round. The DC Circuit Court of Appeals looked back at the original legislation. And because that legislation, again, written when E15 unleaded 88 did not exist as a product, because it wasn't written into that legislation, they took a very narrow view of the legislation, and they issued a decision that said, hey, we can't let this stand. You can't sell this product in the summer months. That was a massive, massive hit for corn growers, ethanol producers, biofuels producers across the country, because the summer months are the driving season, right? That's when we as Americans hit the road. We go on vacations. We go do the things that we love to do, right? We get out, especially here in the Midwest. We finally get out of our house and we go and we explore. And those are critical months for this cleaner burning, lower cost fuel to be available to Americans who want to go do those things, right? So we transition between administrations. The Biden administration came in early and said there's a role for biofuels to play, for these renewable fuels to play, and making sure Americans continue to move toward our goals in the green agenda. Got it. Yeah, agree. There is a pathway here for biofuels, but then you have the war in Ukraine, and you have upward inflationary pressure that is really hurting American consumers. That gets us to today. Today, what the Biden administration is doing, they're not going for a blanket waiver like the Trump administration did. The Biden administration is instead saying, right now, we're in a time of national emergency. And I think most of us would agree, based solely on prices, regardless of what else is going on, but based solely on the price of avocados down the street here, we're in a national crisis when it comes to inflation. So, what they're saying is that because of this national emergency, we're going to, for this driving season, again, just this driving season, allow the sale of this cleaner burning, lower cost fuel, because we recognize come November, a lot of folks are going to be looking for work in Washington, D.C. if we don't do something to address this problem for consumers, right? And so today's announcement, emergency waiver to allow that sale of E15 throughout the year. Here in Ohio, that means a retailer like Sheetz down the street from me, or Casey's, or UDF, or Thornton's isn't going to have to take this product off the market. It's going to remain available to you as a consumer. That's good news. That's good news for you, for your bottom line, for your family. What else are they talking about? Because it's not just an announcement about E15 year round. And I gave all that history on E15. Let's try to talk about a few other things that are going to be brought up here at 3:45 Eastern time when President Biden takes the stage in Menlo, Iowa. He's going to talk a little bit about the $700 million in COVID era assistance for biofuels producers. This is something wild that took place right at the beginning of the pandemic. What happened? Everything shut down. Everyone stopped driving, right? Well, just like oil producers, just like your family business, just like other corporations, biofuel producers suffered because people weren't using the product because they weren't driving anywhere. So there were $700 million in COVID assistance that's been approved previously. The Biden administration is going to talk more about how that is going to be worked into the economy. They're also going to talk about something called the Higher Blends Infrastructure Investment Program, HBIP. And I'll tell you what, I was in DoD for 4 years, and I've been in ag for 2.5. Ag really does compete with DoD when it comes to acronyms, guys. It for such small portions of the population, we can come up with some alphabet soup. But HBIP is a program that was actually approved in the Trump administration, in legislation that would help fund the investment for infrastructure for more of these pumps to be established in the countryside, and allow that cleaner burning, lower cost fuel to be available to you as you travel the country. So they're going to talk about some finalized funding for HBIP, the previous round, and some future funding that's coming down the pipeline. They're also going to talk about sustainable aviation fuel. And I mentioned this a couple minutes ago. Sustainable aviation fuel is everywhere when you're talking about the green economy right now. Decarbonizing air travel is really, really important for a lot of folks. Understandably, it's got a massive carbon footprint, and reducing that carbon footprint can go a long way in addressing this issue. And we're also going to talk about some other commodities that may have a pathway forward within the renewable fuel standard. So it's not just E15 year round. There's really this comprehensive announcement that's coming out today that's a mix of immediate, near-term, midterm, and long-term problems that the administration is trying to address. The bottom line for you, though, is that E15 is going to be available to you year round. E15 is oftentimes retailed as something called unleaded 88. If you're in Central Ohio, like me, that's what you would see it listed as at a local Sheetz station. It's the blue handle. Again, it can be used in light duty cars, trucks, and SUVs built for sale in the United States since 2001. So if you have a car that is younger than a college freshman right now, you probably can use this fuel. As always, you want to check your user's manual, your owner's manual. You want to consult your warranty, but engines, modern engines, are built for this fuel. So the vast majority of us can use it. Again, I use it every single time I fill up at Sheetz in my 2015 Jeep Patriot. built for this fuel because it's a modern vehicle with a fuel injector system that is built to optimize this fuel. So you can use it more than likely, unless you need a premium fuel. But for the vast majority of us, this is real savings available right now. And the price varies. So some of you who join across the country may see prices 5 to 10 cents less per gallon. Again, here in Central Ohio right now, 30 cents per gallon. I saw a stat a week and a half ago that the nationwide average difference between unleaded 87, that 10% blend of ethanol for most of us that we buy, to unleaded 88, a 15% blend of ethanol, the price difference was a 50-cent savings on a national average when you buy unleaded 88, which is wild. And it's, again, available right here, right now. You don't have to buy a new vehicle. You don't have to invest in solar panels on your house. You don't have to upgrade your electric. And if you want to go down that path, that's fine. I'm not here to attack EVs, but this is a consumer available choice right now for the vast majority of us who are already feeling so much financial pressure from everything else skyrocketing in price. So that's the announcement as a whole. I have a question in here. Is it possible to reopen the oil production here? So the administration signals have been interesting on this one. Let me say that. The administration has indicated very early on, hey, there are already 9,000 unused oil leases across the country. If they want to go drill more, they can already go drill more. So I think the basic answer is yes, there's capacity. The real question that I ask is, how long does it take for that capital intensive infrastructure to really get into production? Here's the thing with ethanol, with this E15 announcement today, if we were to replace 1/3 of our current domestic use of E10, again, that's 87, 89, 93. If we were able to replace just 1/3 of that gasoline supply with unleaded 88 or E15, you replace every single drop of Russian oil that we previously imported without having to go to Venezuela, without having to go to the OPEC countries. Again, I'm going to say that again. If you replace just 1/3 of the current gasoline supply with unleaded 88, you replace every single drop of Russian oil. Here's the really beautiful part of it, though. To reach that 1/3 replacement, you would use less than one half of our current surplus ethanol production capability. I'll say that again, less than one half of our current ethanol production capability. So it's really it's immediately available, and it's a pro environment, pro consumer option today. I've got another question. Ethanol has a negative effect on small engines. It gums up the carburetor. Well, that's important to identify. Small engines are not the engines that you're driving on. Small engines for lawnmowers, things like that. Yeah, E15 would not be approved for use in those small engines. And you should always follow the labeling on the products that you use, right? But that's for engines that have a carburetor. Modern vehicle engines are using fuel injector systems, and those systems are designed to optimize the use of ethanol, providing that higher octane. Higher octane is really important to modern engine producers because higher octane is actually how they improve engine performance as well. And again, ethanol was used to replace a carcinogenic product called MTBE, and it provides that higher octane in a cleaner burning way. So it is not an issue with modern vehicle engines. You do not have to have a flex fuel vehicle for this product. This product is optimized for, again, 9 out of 10 cars on the road. Last year alone, 96% of vehicle miles driven by consumers in America were driven in vehicles designed to and capable of running on this product. 96% of the miles driven. That is remarkable. Again, cleaner burning, lower cost, and you're already driving something more than likely that can use this fuel. Massively important for the administration if they want to really go after their green agenda. And listen, folks who join this live stream, there's a good chance you know my political background. There's a good chance that you know that I'm a pretty Main Street Republican. I am not here today to attack the Biden administration on this. This is a really smart move on their part. Frankly, politically, makes a lot of sense in a time where the administration is struggling to get traction in rural America. This is one really smart, savvy move on their part. But there's more to it than this. This helps meet, again, those bigger environmental goals for them long term. So, Ryan, Matthew, thank you so much for asking those questions. We do expect the president to jump on to the stage. Well, walk up to the stage at about 3:45. So I'll keep chatting here for a few more minutes. If there are any questions that pop up, I'll just again continue to dive into a few topics here. I want to go back to one of my early comments, though. Today didn't just come out of nowhere. Today is the result of a lot of folks being involved in a very targeted advocacy effort to push this agenda item. So there's a broad coalition of folks who are interested in improving engine efficiency, in optimizing engines so that they reduce greenhouse gas emissions, so that you keep liquid fueled vehicles on the road. And here's just an example. Again, this is not to attack any other type of technology, but do you remember a couple of winters back where the electric grid went down in Texas? Moments like that show the importance of allowing consumers to use the free market to make the decision that's best for them. The free market is an incredible thing. Are the results always perfect? I don't know. We could argue all day about that. But allowing American consumers to make their own decision on the type of vehicle that they want to drive is critically important if we're going to have the answers to work through the diversity of problems that we run into as a country. We're a big country. We cover a lot of different ecosystems. We have a lot of different challenges. My assertion is that the American consumer should be empowered to make the decision that works best for them and their family. Pretty simple there. So smart political decision here for the administration. Really beneficial to corn producers. It's going to help stabilize a market, a really important market for corn producers in particular. There are other commodities involved in renewable fuel production like soy-based biodiesel, canola oil. There are emerging markets here. Here's one that I'm going to probably wrap up the live session with. I want to tell you about something called Clear Flame Technologies. You may not have heard of this anywhere else, but Clear Flame Technologies is an emerging company that has done something really quite remarkable. Recognizing the cost of diesel versus the cost of pure ethanol that you can buy from an ethanol producer like Poet or ADM or Valero, understanding that there's a massive price value here. They have found a way to convert Cummins engines from purely diesel to being able to run as a flex fuel ethanol powered vehicle. So they're decarbonizing mass transportation, like the big semis that you see on the road. They're helping turn, from a value proposition standpoint, those costlier diesel bills into a much lower cost ethanol option, and they can run on E98, which is really a 100% ethanol solution. The market potential here for that company is incredible, because if they just get 1% of the trucks on the road converted to this new version, this higher burning ethanol version instead of diesel, that's 3 billion bushels of corn in a year. And it's going to be a massive reduction in carbon footprint for that 1% of the transportation sector, delivering the goods that you and I need throughout the year. Matthew dropped in a question. What's my website? Again, my personal website is partofthepossible.com. Partofthepossible.com. It's a personal blog where I share tips and tricks along the way of how you can prepare yourself to advocate for the issues that you believe in. It's a passion project of mine. It's all free right now. I'm not using it to sell you a course or anything like that. I mean, maybe someday, who knows, right? I'll be honest. But it is a site designed to help you unlock the small tips and tricks you can pick up along the way to better communicate with elected officials. I personally believe that our politics aren't going to get any better until we take ownership of that, until we take ownership of advocating better and more effectively. I spent 7.5 years working for one member of Congress, another year working for a second member of Congress. So nearly a decade of time working for members of Congress here in Central Ohio. I come at this from the standpoint of one of their staffers who has seen the best and the worst approaches in advocacy. And I try to share some lessons learned with you. I also, from time to time, dive into current events like this issue, actually the issue on high gas prices, which I've got featured on my blog on that website, is one of my most viewed pieces. I would love for you to take a look at it, partofthepossible.com, go to the blog section. It's featured on top. Please consider sharing that within your network. I think there's a really incredible story to tell here with Unleaded 88 and how we can save our friends, family, and neighbors money today with a product that's available in many, many markets across the country. So with that, I will say I hope that you take time to listen to what the president has to say today, regardless of politics, regardless of your party. My preference is that anytime any president speaks, we try to at least listen in a little bit and try to pick up a little bit more of what they're trying to do, because it will help us as aspiring advocates, as professional advocates, regardless of their party affiliation and ours, to navigate the broader conversation that's happening around us. So I hope you tune in. Again, check out my website, partofthepossible.com. The featured blog article today is a piece that I wrote about a month ago on this issue in particular. So you can learn a little bit more about the fuel. You'll have access to some of the stats that I rattled off here over the course of this live session. I want to thank you so much for joining in. I had a handful of folks join in throughout this. I didn't expect that at all. Honestly, I thought I was just going to be talking at myself for the last 30 minutes. So thank you so much for those who joined in. I see a lot of friends on here, and just very grateful for your continued support and for you continuing to check out my website, engage with me on social media. Looking forward to many, many more conversations. Hopefully this won't be my last live. I've got a few things to learn about how to do it well, but I am so grateful to my employer and my spouse and my friends who have encouraged me to continue to put myself out there. I'm going to leave you with a little bit of encouragement. If you've got something burning inside you that you can't keep in anymore, start putting it out there. As I started creating positive content around the work that I love to do about 2 years ago, my life improved. My quality of life improved so much. It is so important that we put good back into this world. So please, if you have something that you're passionate about, find an organization that can help you work on the issues that matter most to you. And along the way, if you need help learning how to do it better, check out partofthepossible.com. Thanks again, guys. I'm going to hop off here so I can tune in just in time, hopefully, for the president's remarks. Take care.